Hi, I'm Olly, this is Simply Stitchy, and I'm currently in the process of making this quilt, which is Catwalk using the Kitty the Cat fabrics by Susie B. So far in this series we've got as far as piecing the coloured border down the side, and we've got as far as actually putting the safety pins in to make the quilt sandwich. Now, when I started this quilting series, it was my intention to use Grandma to do the actual quilting. My reason being, she's got a nice large thread space, so there's plenty of room to roll the quilt underneath and get the bit you're not working on out of the way. There's a video on my channel showing you how to fit a walking foot to a Singer 27. I'll put a link in the description box below for you. But I've hit a bit of a stumbling block. Let me explain. When I first started putting the materials together for this particular quilt, I popped into my local thrift store and I was thrilled to bits to find a packet of wadding, which was not only the right size for the quilt, but it also gave me some leftover for a project in the future. And for £2.50 I thought, wow, how cool is that? Not very, as it turns out, but I'm getting to that. Whenever I start a new project, whether it's a quilt, clothes, curtains, whatever, I always do a test piece to test the fabric that I'm going to be using, and in the case of quilts, the batting that goes in the middle. Now, up until this point, I have to be honest and say that normally, if I'm quilting, I use Jerome, because he is a quilting sewing machine, and you know, he's fairly laid back. He's like, yeah, whatever, so I can sew that. He doesn't mind. As this was the first time I've quilted with Grandma, I made sure that I made a quilt sandwich using all the materials that I was going to be using. I set her up to stitch and I did my first test. She's stitched on the front perfectly, if I may say so, and if you turn it round, I've got rippling or gathering on the back. Now, I didn't think too much of it. I thought, it's fine. I'll change the pressure that the presser foot is pushing down on the fabric just to make it a little bit lighter. So I tried that. Didn't help. Exactly the same. I tried changing out the needle, because whatever project I did last obviously needed a jeans needle, because that's the one that was in the machine. So I changed it to the next size down. Didn't make any difference. I've still got rippling on the back. So I thought, I know, I'll change the stitch length. I put the stitch length on to the longest one she's got, which to be honest isn't that big, but hey, you got to work with what you've got. Again, didn't make any difference. The next thing that I tried was I changed the thread. I was using a Gutterman thread, so I changed it to a Coats & Clark. Rippling on the back. Didn't make any difference. The next thing that I tried was the tension. I changed the tension. I loosened it off a little bit. Didn't help. I've still got rippling on the back. Now, it's around about this point, me and dear old Grandma started to have a few words. I was a little bit miffed, to say the least, because when I did the video with the walking foot, which links in the description as I said, I'd managed to get her to sew a quilt sandwich mock-up without any hassle. She'd done it fine, no problem. So I'm like, what the heck, Grandma? What is the problem? So I started again. I changed the stitch length, the thread, the foot pressure, the tension. At this point, we've gone from being in a bit of a tizzy mood with each other to barely on speaking terms, and she is no help at all because she just sits there giving me the silent treatment. I've fiddled about so much at this point that I'm now getting rippling on the front and the back. So I did what any self-respecting sewist does at their time of need, and I watched a YouTube video. This video was 7 minutes long, and the lady in the video went through everything that I'd tried. The tension, the foot pressure, the needle, the thread. She even suggested trying a walking foot, but as you all know, I'm already using the walking foot. At the very end of the video, she said, if it isn't any of the points I've raised in this video, it's going to be something else. Bye! I'm like, no kidding, Sherlock. Although I think Sherlock put it slightly more eloquently, or at least Arthur Conan Doyle did, when he said, when you've eliminated all, which is impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Which basically is a long-winded way of saying when you've figured out what it isn't, what's left is the problem. So what am I left with at this point? Well, my initial thought was the walking foot. Even though I've already tested the walking foot on Grandma and it works fine, maybe that is what's causing the problem. So I tried another sample. Of Grandma sewing with the walking foot, but without any batting or wadding in between. Now bear in mind that at this point the tension, the pressure on the presser foot is all over the place, but she has actually sewn pretty well considering. So it's not the walking foot. And just to make absolutely clear that it wasn't the walking foot, I tried a stitching again, only this time I put the standard foot back on. Again, the stitch tension and the pressure I haven't changed it, it's what it was before, but she's done okay. So now I'm thinking, why not try the standard foot with a little bit of wadding? And here we go. That's the front. Oops, sorry. And there's the back. And guess what? We've got rippling. You're probably wondering what I can deduce from that. Well, apart from that Grandma's having a bit of a tizzy fit, I'm starting to think that it's the one substance that I haven't checked yet. Before I tell you what that is, meet Great Aunt Bessie. She's a Singer 27 hand crank, and she's from 1900. She had a bit of a facelift in the 1950s. If you want to know more about that, I've got a video on my channel. I'll put a link in the description box for you. What I thought I'd do is try the exact same test with Great Aunt Bessie and see how she gets on. What I did to start with was I popped the walking foot on and I just did 2 rows of just plain stitching with no batting or wadding, and she worked a treat. That's perfect. So then I thought I'd add a bit of batting, and look, we've got rippling. The last machine that I tried, just to make sure that it wasn't me going round the twist, was good old Jerome. Now, as I say, he is usually my go-to quilting machine. He's a QC 6260, and the QC stands for Quilter's Companion. So it was no surprise to find that's the front and that's the back, and he stitched it perfectly, no hassle. Let's just take another look at that batting for a minute. If you check out on the front of the bag, it says 100% premium polyester. And having pulled my hair out and gone completely grey, I think that that's my problem. I think it might be the batting. Grandma and dear old Bessie at the back here are both machines that predate polyester batting, and I'm not sure that they can actually cope with sewing it, and I've got a theory as to why that might be. If we take a look at the feed dogs on Grandma for a moment, and then compare that with the feed dogs on Jerome, Grandma's feed dogs are a bit like an upside down H, whereas Jerome's are a capital H. Now this is just my theory, but I think the fact that Grandma's feed dogs are a different shape makes it trickier for her to deal with modern fabrics, particularly ones made out of a slippy polyester. So now we kind of reach the dilemma. I've got 4 options. I can either, 1, hand quilt this quilt, which is going to take me a month of Sundays. I can 2, tie the quilt sandwich together, which isn't a technique that I'm particularly familiar with or happy with the aesthetics, to be honest. Number 3, I could change the machine. I could use Jerome and be perfectly confident that he'll stitch it neatly on both sides. Or 4, I could change the batting. I could leave it at that. I could just go ahead and quilt the quilt on Jerome, but it leaves me with an unanswered question. And for regular viewers of my channel, you'll know I don't like questions that don't have answers to. So what I've got is I've got a pack of 100% cotton batting. Now this is it has a different feel and texture to the polyester batting. That's polyester and that's the cotton. This has got like a thin scratchy feel to it, whereas this feels like a luxury thin blanket. It's super soft and smooth, and I think even if this test doesn't work, I'm going to start using cotton batting in my quilts because it's just got a better feel to it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put another test quilt sandwich together, and I'm going to try it on Grandma and see how she gets on. See how she got on, shall we? Okay, there's the front. And the moment of truth. Ready for this? I feel like we should have a bit of a drum roll. There you go. So there you go. The 100% cotton did make a difference to the test quilt sandwich, so it just goes to show that sometimes it's not just what you expect it to be, the threads, the needle, the pressure, the tension, that is screwing up your sewing. It could actually be the products that you're using and the fact that your particular machine doesn't like them. One of the best ways of actually working out what your machine likes and what it doesn't like is to sew regularly, get to know it, and you'll figure out its quirks. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and why not check out some of the other videos that I've got on my channel using these links coming up any minute now, or the ones that I'll put in the description box below for you. And why not consider subscribing and clicking that little bell down there so that YouTube can let you know when I upload another video. In the next video in this series we'll actually get around to quilting the quilt top and putting the binding on and finishing it off. So if you want to see that one, make sure that you subscribe. In the meantime, whatever you're sewing it with, embrace your creativity and have fun. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.